Assassin's Creed Rogue is a safe bet. Whether you're the developers who put it together or the gamers who play it, Rogue offers a tried and true experience with few gameplay surprises. By embracing established mechanics and gameplay systems, the closing chapter of the American saga regularly feels like a retreat. Fortunately, with much of the groundwork already in place, the developers have been able to focus on content creation, and Rogue is one of the biggest and most varied titles in the franchise to date. Is it the biggest?
I don't know if it's the biggest. The story mode for it is actually fairly short. I was kind of disappointed in that respect, but the actual collection part of it is pretty huge. You get three different whole maps to deal with. I mean, one of them is just New York, but
Okay, okay. I'm going to continue reading now.
sorry.
The story of Shay Cormac has overtones of Greek tragedy, focusing on an assassin's change of heart and the devastation to his previous brotherhood that ensues. The story is at times compelling, but caught in a strange gray space between an unexpected path into villainy, a la Anakin Skywalker, and a more sympathetic vision of the Templars as potential good guys, an interpretation that has never really worked for me. Regardless, there has never regardless, there's no denying the fun of experiencing the other side of the conflict. I love the constant disquiet I felt at murdering the very figures I spent 7 years trying to aid to victory. The meta story of Abstergo Entertainment and your unwitting part in its machinins. Machinage? I don't know what that word is. Machinin continues to struggle to find footing. Continues to struggle to find footing. Like I continue to struggle to say that sentence. Wandering an office building and hacking computers lacks the tension and narrative drive of the series' earliest entries, and I'm hopeful that the overarching fiction can diverge in more proactive fare sometime soon. I actually like that. I like that it's completely separate from the gameplay of the story, because it is completely separate. You feel like you're the person coming out of, sitting in the hot seat. And that's what it's supposed to feel like. And I like hacking the computers. I like finding things around the office. I like the kind of tension, like, I'm out, now I want to get back in. It's kind of like real life. Like, when you're away from the game, you want to go back to playing it. And I guess I can understand why some people would find that annoying to be in the game.
Yeah.
But I still like the narrative that goes on in the office building.
Yeah, I know.
And I didn't like Desmond. I didn't like his gameplay was so similar to the gameplay of Assassin's Creed because it flowed together and it didn't feel like its own, story. It just felt like a distraction from what was actually happening. Now that this is completely separate, it doesn't feel like it's supposed to be similar at all. I mean, I guess you could think of it as kind of like a long loading screen, but I still enjoy it. I can't really place why. I guess because I associate more with a silent, faceless protagonist than I ever did Desmond.
Yeah.
I really didn't like
Desmond
Desmond.
was pretty annoying.
Yeah. I didn't particularly like all of the assassins that were in your little group. I think I liked the nerd guy the best, the one with the glasses. But I didn't really care for his father. I didn't really like the girl. I didn't really pay attention to Lucy. I don't know. But I don't know. I like the office building. At least I liked it a lot in Black Flag. I don't know how much I like it in this one. I haven't gotten to see it as much. So.
Yeah.
Let's see. The core gameplay draws heavily from many of the best features in Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, and even earlier installments like Brotherhood. Sailing through the iceberg-laden ocean of the North Atlantic brings more open sea ship combat and the exploration of beach shipwrecks left behind by unfortunate explorers. The alpine forests of the Hudson River Valley are home to settlements to control and wilderness to discover, and the urban streets of New York provide gang headquarters to conquer and buildings to renovate. The variety of activities is vast, even without many fundamentally new experiences. The side activities are all tapped through the course of the central campaign, and by mixing things up, Rogue avoids some of the pitfalls of other franchise entry. I rarely felt like I was doing the same thing over and over again. If one mission offered a chase through the forest, the next might be a ship battle, and the one after that might be a fort infiltration. These time-tested experiences are bolstered with a number of collectibles, including Viking sword fragments, Templar maps, and prosperity gems, whose sole purpose is to boost the value of other rewards. Ubisoft also brings back the fleet combat minigame, which now plots Shay's involvement in the 7 Years' War. I was regularly pulled away from the core story missions into an engaging platforming challenge through the trees, or a quest to track down just a few more Lost War letters. While the story's setup differs, it's striking that many features are lifted wholesale from older games, from a bunch of the same sea shanties to a virtually identical fleet deployment map. Even so, these familiar and interconnected systems all perform well and kept me busy for hours of upgrading and outfitting. I'm not really surprised that the fleet deployment map is the same because it comes before 4, and those are naval passages that people have.
What do you mean it comes before 4?
Or it comes before Black Flag, yeah.
What?
Rogue is.
After Black
Oh,
Flag.
yeah. What am I saying?
You're saying it comes before it, which is
3.
Yeah.
So it comes before 3, after 4. And those are the I forget what they're called. Waylines? It's a certain route you take when you're at sea. The safest route that people have, laid out. I mean, they could have added new locations, but there's nothing wrong with the ones that are there. All you get is a slightly different looking map.
Yeah.
So there's not really much point. Even so, those familiar and interconnected systems all perform well and kept me busy for hours of upgrading and outfitting. The melee combat also remains largely unchanged. Furious sword and pistol duels are still fun, but the system is beginning to show its age, especially in the light of other franchises that have begun to improve on the rhythm-based formula. After multiple games using the same moves and similar animations, the counters and strikes lack some of their previous punch. I haven't really picked up on that.
Yeah.
I don't particularly have a problem if a series has something that works and something that's true to its personal formula, that you don't need to change it just because you feel like you need something new. That was one of the reasons why I was upset about that guy saying that Borderlands doesn't look good.
Yeah.
That's just how Borderlands looks. This is how Assassin's Creed plays. I mean, they might have switched it up in Unity. That might have.
They did switch it in Unity.
So that might be where he's like, oh, well, it's not as good as Unity, maybe in the back of his mind. I still like Assassin's Creed gameplay. I think it's simple enough that anybody can learn it, but complicated enough that not everyone will be masters at it. I mean, it's majoritively timing to dodge and
you just have to
counter.
pay attention. It's not difficult.
But if you're surrounded by a large group, and if you want to use guns, and if you're using bombs and blow darts and whatever, then
Yeah, it's a little more difficult if you want to be reckless.
yeah. But it not changing that much isn't such a bad thing. A few new gameplay features don't show up until a few hours into the campaign, but they add some meaningful diversion. My favorite additions involve turning the tables on the established conventions of assassins hunting Templars. As fun as it is to hunt down an enemy of the Brotherhood, there's something equally engaging about thwarting those hidden foes before they take down an ally. Similarly, I like the sense of danger that comes once you become a target. Any bush or sloping rooftop might hide a hidden blade aimed at your heart, unless you remain wary for the telltale whispers of an approaching killer. That's very reminiscent of Assassin's Creed online multiplayer. And I don't understand what their concept is, and I don't understand what Ubisoft wants to do with integrating their multiplayer games into their single players, because I hate the multiplayer for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah,
Well, I don't hate it. I like it
it's pretty
enough to try and
boring,
play it to get the
really.
trophies. But it's
Yeah,
awful.
but you don't play it for the fun of it. You play it because you're trying to get the trophies.
Yeah,
That's not why you should be playing a game. I mean,
I don't like Assassin's Creed Rogue. It's really unbalanced and unfair. Kind of like when you play Call of Duty, you can just get in a match with anyone of any level and you can just get wrecked.
yeah.
Especially if the game's been out for a little while or you stop playing multiplayer for a bit. People will outlevel you and it's not fun to try and play catch up at all. Especially in Assassin's Creed, because it's not only your level but also your skill. So people will outskill you and they'll have better equipment than you, and it just sucks. And the Whisper stuff isn't that bad, but I don't know why Ubisoft wants to keep integrating their shitty multiplayer into their single player games, which are good. I mean, Rogue's still... Well, I haven't gotten to the point where that even happens yet. But Unity didn't look bad, but it didn't look amazing.
Unity looked kind of boring as far as the single player story goes. But then again, I never really cared too much for the
Does
French
Unity even
Revolution.
have single player?
I think you can play it by yourself.
I wonder what that'd be like. Rogue is vast with lots to explore, and while it lacks novelty, it offers a wealth of gameplay and lore to faithful fans. The absence of the dedicated multiplayer mode is a bummer, but you can't fault the game for lacking things to do. Why do you want the multiplayer? It is the same in almost every single Assassin's Creed game. I mean, it got a little bit more complicated in 4 than it was in 3, but it was still majoritively the same annoying stuff over and over. There was the lab things where people could make their own annoying games for you to play, and there was the Wolfgang where you can do something, I don't know, I didn't notice much of a difference. And I played both of them to get the trophies. I guess people like the Assassin's Creed multiplayer, I really don't.
I have no idea.
I mean, the games I like the best are the co-op ones in Assassin's Creed, working with your teams.
Yeah.
But people that outrank
that's the
you...
thing about Unity.
Maybe.
I would assume. I haven't played Unity, but I've seen some people play it.
Yeah.
It seemed like it'd be a fun game to play multiplayer on, but only multiplayer. The story and everything by itself looks pretty boring and unimaginative.
But if he feels like that the game didn't really change all that much, why would he want another multiplayer? Just go play the one on Assassin's Creed or go play Unity. I mean, you don't need it. That's just being greedy. That's like, oh, I have chocolate chip cookies. Well, why don't they have M&Ms in them too?
Why would you want them to?
For players trying to figure out which game to tackle first when 2 Assassin's Creed games release on the same day this year, the answer is to start here. Shay's story closes a number of story loops left behind on the American front of the Templar/Assassin conflict and offers a crucial first step in the new European theater of war. Rogue proves why it's time for the franchise to chart some new territory, but leaves no doubt about why we fell in love in the first place. They are charting new territory. You just said that they're wrapping up this arc.
Yeah.
Concept, retreat familiar gameplay with the new story of an assassin fallen from his perch. Graphics, only available on last-gen hardware, Rogue still manages to present some impressive environments. Sound, voice work, and music are strong, but you've heard some of these tunes before. I'll be honest, I was disappointed to hear that most of the old shanties were back, and the only new shanties I heard were remixes of old shanties.
There are new shanties entirely.
How many? Can you count them on one hand?
I don't know. I'd have to actually go back and play again. I actually stopped playing after I got to the top rank on pirating, but
Yeah, because that hacker is going to come back and take your spot. He's probably already there.
I'm sure I'm down to like 100 or something by now.
That said, I love the old shanties. I know the lyrics for some of them, so I like to sing along with them when I can. So it's nice to have the old ones, but the new ones I kind of wish the new ones that are remixes of the old ones or are reversions of the old ones. Some of the old ones, I can't think of which one off the top of my head had one like that. But I don't like those. I don't like those songs.
Some of them are okay.
I just don't like the idea of them taking something I already know and like and then trying to make it again. Because I sometimes like remixes, but I don't like...
The thing is with old shanties like that, they were interpreted differently. So after selling for so long, somebody else might have a different version and so on.
But why sing both versions on the same ship? That seems silly.
I suppose that is, but in general, it's not the worst thing ever.
Playability, the same controls that worked in the last two installments remain in place to good effect. I didn't actually... What in it is Assassin's Creed 3 besides the areas? Because I haven't noticed too much that was very reminiscent of Assassin's Creed 3. I was kind of hoping ponies would come back.
Just kind of the area. If anything, it's a lot more like 4.
It pretty much is a carbon copy of 4 in terms of gameplay, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, they've added some new innovations in every aspect.
Actually, you have grenades and stuff now. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So it brings back some cool stuff from, like, Revelations, but...
Revelations.
It kind of took Revelations and 4's gameplay and put it into 3's area. If that makes sense.
I'm kind of glad that they made it a copy of 4, because I don't know if they're going to get a chance to do the ship stuff anymore.
They don't seem to have ships in the new one. I don't know if that's...
In Unity? I don't think they have.
I don't think so.
I mean, like, in the storylines after this, I don't think there's much reason
Unless they go back further and go to, like, a Viking relative or something. But even then, it wouldn't have, like, open-scale battles.
I want to go to Japan.
Well, you might. They seem to be adding a lot of Eastern weapons into the game, to be honest.
Even if it's China. I think they had a PSP or PS Vita game that was centered in China with Ezio as an old man and some Chinese underling.
I don't know if she was, if it was situated in China, but I know she was Chinese.
Yeah. I think it was situated in China because I think he ran away to there.
I couldn't tell you.
But I really love old Japan. Like the feudal era and the history, the stuff.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful too.
Yeah, it was quite interesting.
I mean, older countrysides from most places.
Haven't had a good Assassin's Creed about Germany or Russia or something yet.
Well, this one in Rogue they specifically made mention that they'd been getting assassin signals from all over the world. So maybe Ubisoft is like letting people know that, like, we're going to go to more countries, don't worry, because we've been focusing mostly around the Atlantic coast, which is understandable. That's where I would assume assassins to be.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I would just like to see
certainly
more places.
Mm.
Like medieval Germany and places like that. Well, Prussia, I guess, at the time, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I understand fully.
They certainly could have picked a more interesting era than the French Revolution to make a game.
I guess the French Revolution is just really important to them. It is a very chaotic time, so it makes sense to have, like, multiple assassins jumping around.
Yeah. But on the same side note, I'd also like to see another game where you get to play the Templars. That was honestly a lot more fun. That's kind of what I liked about Edward. He didn't really seem to play for one side or the other until close to the end of the game.
It was kind of odd. Connor didn't either. Ratahagetan.
Yeah.
I already made mention of this, I think, in my Rogue Let's Play, that he wasn't really an assassin the same way other assassins were. Altair was raised from birth. Ezio was raised from birth.
Yeah.
Even Shay, I think, was raised from childhood.
Yeah.
But Connor came in as, what, like a late teenager?
Yeah.
And he was trained under Achilles.
Mm.
He didn't get the creed burned into his head. He learned how to fight, and he learned how to, like, do what he needed to.
Yeah. Well, to be perfectly honest, I liked Shay's story the best so far out of any of them really. I just thought he had a much more interesting story.
I'm glad to hear I'm going to be seeing more of Hatham.
Yeah, Hatham was.
I was
always
always really
fun.
sad that, like, him and Connor couldn't work things out, but Connor had so much hate burned into his heart. You could see there was a little remorse in the way Hatham acted. He wanted to kind of get back with him, but he knew there was absolutely no way.
Yeah.
But that was kind of Hatham's fault. He just kind of left. Made no effort to come back. I'm sure he had a reason. I don't know what
It was a little bit of Hatham's fault. Let's not put everything on Hatham.
Yeah, I guess. But I did like Hatham.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I did like Connor. I always felt like Hatham made mistakes, but I never really felt like he was a really bad person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I'm surprised Connor didn't look more white than he did.
Yeah, he should have been a little.
Yeah,
Little
I mean, I don't
less-
mean just paler, but his whole structure of...
Yeah, his body structure and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he might have been a little taller
I guess.
or shorter. I don't know. He didn't look all that different than, like, his cousins and friends and whatever.
Yeah. But just the same, it was understandable as to why.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even if he was a bit more tan, it made sense because, I mean, he was where he lived. It wasn't just.
I was just thinking more about his
purely-
face. Connor's got a very specific face.
Well,
Very
you
Indian.
generally take after your mother. I mean,
I guess.
they just.
It would have been funny
emphasized
if
it a
Connor had
little
been
more.
blonde and he was this really he was this really dark-skinned, blonde-haired Native American.
That'd certainly be strange.
Entertainment, a large game with lots to explore as long as you don't mind a sense of deja vu.
Didn't he just say a little while ago in it that he never felt like he was doing the same thing twice?
I think he means being in the Assassin's Creed 3 world. Replay value moderate.
But he said that it's a big open area that gives you the sense that you're never doing the same thing twice.
That is what he said. I don't know if that's
And
what he
then
meant.
he's commenting about it's alright as long as you don't mind a case of deja vu.
Yeah. There are other games in here that are next gen that got decent and low scores. There's Dragon Age Inquisition, which didn't look impressive. There's Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which looked really fun, but I don't know if I'd give it a 9.
Yeah, it looks like it would be fun to play, but I've never really been a big fan of Call of Duty. I liked Black Ops a lot. I hated Modern Warfare 3 with a passion.
Yeah, we returned that the day we got it.
Well, when you have like 23 and 2 as your first score of the game, and all the maps were pretty tiny, at least the non-DLC ones. I hated Modern Warfare 3.
But I always thought Advanced Warfare looked really, really fun. I don't know how innovative it was, but the power suit looked really cool.
Well, it lets you jump around the map, you can climb, you can...
Yeah. I
sense
like
where
the
other
way it
people
displays
are
your ammo on
easier.
the side of your gun, too.
Yeah, it seemed like it'd be fun to maybe pick up at some point and play, but
NBA 2K15 got a 7.75.
it shouldn't have even got that high, to be honest.
It got quarter of a score higher than Borderlands: The Pre-Sequel. I don't know if it's just because I don't like sports and I don't like sports games, but I never understand why people praise sports and sports games.
Sports games are almost always the same.
Yeah,
I used to
it's
have
like
friends that bought them every single year, and I'd end up playing a few games with them each time a new one came out. Mason had quite a few sports games and things like that, and they were all the same. Yeah, they got a few different players, and some people switched teams, But as far as game mechanics and everything, it was the same thing over and over.
Dynasty Warriors?
You can say the exact same thing about Call of Duty, except for at least the weapons in Call of Duty change. The balls never change in sports games. At least racing can say they've added new cars, but
what about the Dynasty Warriors? Every time you argue that a game is repetitive, and people are like, Dynasty Warriors is the same thing.
Everyone keeps saying that, Dynasty Warriors is just a rehash of the same gameplay over and over. A lot of things change about Dynasty Warriors with each new thing, and
even the add-ons.
Yeah, and each new one is a different interpretation of how it happened, a different view on it, and they're still selling really, really well. I mean, if you go on like GameStop, for instance, people that actually bought the game, rated the game, etc., etc., there's not one that was less than, I think, an 8.5 or an 8.5.
Unless there were people that were just complaining without even playing it.
No, even the ones with that. You'll see some that are like a 1 as a ranking. And that still doesn't bring it below like 9 or 8.5.
Oh, I see. You mean as a whole.
Yeah. I think there's only 2 of them that are less than a 9. So, it's just stupid.
Skylanders got an 8.75. Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishment got an 8. Drive Club got a 7.75. Sunset Overdrive.
That game's just
9.25.
That game annoys the hell out of me.
Drive Club or Sunset Overdrive?
Sunset Overdrive.
I don't even know what it is.
It's basically Xbox doing the exact same thing it always does, with just copying aspects of other games and just mashing them into its own series.
Ah, that's why it's exclusive.
Yeah, of course. It's basically the small amount of footage that I saw from it was you grinding on power lines, the exact same movement as Infamous.
Oh, I remember you showing me that.
The exact same, just the way that they stood on the lines and grinded across. It was just a carbon copy
of Infamous 1 and 2. Not the Sun one.
Yeah, even the new one. But
yeah?
It looks just like it. As far as grinding on the rails. And as far as the rest of the games mash up, it's
Saints Row?
Yeah, it's Saints Row meets Infamous. And that's basically the concept of what I've seen so far about that game. If you see a game is identical to 2 other games, and it's purposely trying to say, this is a brand new concept, check this out, and you see it's the same thing, you can't really do more than facepalm and look away, because it's just stupid.
It's like cover the eyes of your children. Don't look at it, son.